So I'm Max Cooper. I'm a music producer from the UK. I was born in Belfast. I live in London, and I used to work in science. I like doing sort of sciencey visuals with music. I do a lot of audio-visual shows and installations and sort of music crossover with the arts, you know, in a wider sense. I'm really interested in how music can be part of other things which are unusual contexts for music. My sister, you know, she was listening to all the sort of synth pop, you know, the sort of classic synth pop music. So I got exposed to that when I was, you know, 12, 13 or something, and then that was my introduction to electronic music, and then I got really into that. Then when I got to 16, 17, I started going to clubs, and then I got into DJing. So I went down the standard route, really, of getting into electronic music. And it was only later that I discovered, well, I started DJing. I got into the whole turntablist thing and, you know, worked really hard at that, and then discovered production later. So I probably started producing 2004 or something, 2005. And then once I discovered that, then I got even more, you know, it just took over my life completely, as music production does, because it's very time consuming. Yeah, I mean, I was always really into science, and I love learning. I still love learning. I feel I have to learn. I have to constantly. That's why I need to always try and do new experiments, and you know, with the whole visual thing and different types of music. And I always want to challenge myself. And I think that comes from years of education, and then going from, you know, I kept doing education as long as I possibly could. I really enjoyed learning about science, and then I went into research, and then I was learning as well, you know, so there are so many amazing things to be discovered out there. So, you know, you have to keep learning because you can never even scratch the surface of, you know, what's there. So, especially these days with access to so much information, there's all the more reason to enjoy learning and to push and try and find new things. For me, I guess the core of the project is that sort of feeling inside that when you get up every day, you're driven to do something. You know, you're as human beings, you know, I guess evolution has created us in a way which makes us, it's a little bit like you know, what I was saying about always wanting to learn. You know, we're always driven to pursue things. You know, we always want something. We're always we want our team to win a football game, or we want to, you know, earn enough money to, you know, buy a car. I don't know what it is. You know, everyone has these things that drive them. They want to find love or whatever, you know. But we're constantly driven. We have these abstract ideas, but behind it all, there's this constant drive to get up and do something, you know, and try and achieve something. And for me, that's the core of the show, is that trying to visualize that, you know, this aspect of the human condition. And I set about that by looking into, you know, science and you know, art history and religion as well for early examples, or whatever examples I could find of the infinite and how it's been visualized. And then using these different types of, you know, science or arts or religious-based visualizations of the infinite, putting them into the story interspersed with imagery of humans doing what they do, you know, in the city, you know, going to work and whatever. So it's a sort of very abstracted visualization of the infinite and a very down-to-earth, you know, sort of this human activity, and then merging them together into this single visual spectacle. So that's the show, but it's based around that, you know, that thing that drives us. When I'm designing my visual shows, I always want to do it in a way that can deliver the story most efficiently or most powerfully. And in this case, you know, I wanted to create this really intense, infinite experience. So it meant, you know, wrap around. So the live setup is with 4 or 8, anywhere between 4 and 8 visual outputs, and then they go all around. The visuals go around the audience and can go above and underneath as well, and then there's 2 layers at the front, so you get a 3D effect. So the live setup needed me to build a system where I could control which visual goes to which surfaces, and then be able to play with how the visual and the audio interlink. So I spent a lot of time working on a system using Ableton and Resolume to map every control I want for the audio also maps to a visual control. So all my controls do both the audio and the visual. So it means I can play both the audio and the visual at the same time and mess around with them and jam with them. So that's the live setup. To be honest, my favorite gigs are like this one, where I can explore the whole range of feelings. There's some moments of peace and some moments of beauty, and there's some moments of just intensity, where I want everyone to be not scared, but sort of overpowered by the audiovisual experience and what the story is trying to tell them at those points. Because I tackle the way I write my albums is I start with a visual idea. And then I have this visual story which I'm scoring the music to, like a film. And like any film, there's moments whenever it's scary, and there's moments when it's happy, and there's moments when it's sad, and so I want to convey those feelings musically as well, whenever the time is right. But the key thing for me is just being able to most honestly and most purely and most intensely deliver the feeling I want. The music industry today, my opinion is it's a very tough industry. Obviously, it's very competitive and very fashion driven. So you can become popular and then unpopular again really quickly, and it's hard work, but it's great because it's so easy. Making music is really accessible these days. You can do it on a laptop and headphones, and it doesn't have to be. 20 years ago, you needed to buy all this expensive equipment. And actually, when I started, I didn't have any expensive equipment. I just started with a basic computer and some speakers, and really all my early releases were all digital. And so it's great that it's accessible, and it's great that there's the online routes to getting your music heard. So there's pros and cons, but then the downside of that, of course, is that there's so much music out there. It's hard to get yours heard, and it just requires hard work. But it's good. I mean, and the music industry is healthy. I travel all over the world, and there's people interested in, even my music's fairly niche, but there's people all over the world that are interested in niche things because of the way the industry's set up at the moment, which is great. Nature for sure, and I don't just mean nature as in a tree or a leaf. I'm really interested in nature from a more fundamental level. So, for example, I spend a lot of my music videos are based on science ideas, and science is all about nature. Really, it's just how we it's a system for understanding nature and for making sense of things. But a lot of science is to do with really fundamental laws of nature and sort of mathematical ideas. But those are still natural structures, and actually they're often really beautiful. So I'm really interested in that sort of hidden beauty in nature. So I love the traditional thing, the nice mountains and the trees, and of course. But I'm also really interested in the sort of quantitative structure of nature and how that can be beautiful, and using that visually. I mean, that happens in the Yearning for the Infinite show. There's ideas like Penrose tiling and infinitely dividing surfaces, which are, Penrose tiling is like a mathematical system for tiling an infinite plane without needing to repeat units. So it's part of nature the way I see it, even though it's from mathematics. So I'm really interested in that, that side of nature in particular.